Good evening, everyone. I hope that you are well. My name is David, and tonight we will be looking at Psalm chapter 1. This is going to be a two-part series as we look at this first psalm in the collection of psalms, and we're going to break it up with looking at the negative warning given to the man who ignores God, and tomorrow we will look at the blessing of the man who delights in the Lord, in the law, and meditates on his law, and just what comes with that. And so Psalm chapter 1 is 6 verses long, and it starts off with this warning. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water, that yield its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. In all that he does he prospers. The wicked are not so, but like the chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. And so there's this comparison here between two ways of living. We can either be living a life of a righteous man, or we can be living the life of an unrighteous man. And I know that all of us at different points in our lives would find ourselves between those two places. But the challenge for us in the psalm is, are we continuously seeking to walk in righteousness? Are we continuously seeking to live out the grace that we have received from Jesus Christ? Or is grace just something that we've played once to receive forgiveness, and then we carry on living the way that we would want to live according to the flesh? And so this is a warning for the man, for the woman who just lives according to their flesh and ignores God. So Psalm chapter 1, verse 1, we see this warning. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. And so right up front, we see that there is a blessing for the man who is not like this. And so why does the psalmist speak in this way? It walks not in the counsel of the wicked, stands in the way of scoffers, nor sits in the seat of stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. See, what we are to see here is that there is a progression in action, but there's also a progression in terms of the sin. And so first of all, we see someone who is walking with someone, then we see someone who is standing, and then we see someone who is sitting. And each of those is a progression in action. You walk with someone, then you stand and you're giving them more time, and eventually you sit, you are fully engaged in their company. And so what we see here is that you would walk in the counsel of the wicked. You would entertain the advice of the wicked. You would entertain the thoughts of the worldly living. And then you would stand in the way of sinners. Now, this stand in the way of sinners is not stand against sinners, as some of us may interpret that in the English, but it translates to say that we stand in the same way that sinners would stand. We start to act like sinners act. And so you see the progression of someone who is listening, engaging, and being fed by the counsel of the world, and then it leads to their action. And then what does that lead to? It leads to sitting in the seat of scoffers. And eventually that sin would build upon itself, that you would find yourself mocking the righteous. You would find yourself mocking those who fear the Lord. And so what do we see here? We see the progression of sin. Once you can get away with sin once, it becomes easier to repeat that sin again and again and again. And this is what Romans would call the hardening of the heart. This is the searing of the conscience that we are continuously warned against in Scripture. And so, Christian, I would warn you today, if there is sin in your life, do not entertain it. Do not let your heart be seared to sin today. But if there is sin in your life, kill it before it would build, and you would go from just hearing the counsel of the wicked to starting to act like the wicked, and eventually finding yourself being the wicked, mocking those who are righteous. So this is the warning. Blessed is the man who is not like this. You see, why? Are you blessed if you are not like this? Because of what we see in verse 4 and verse 5, and then in verse 6 is a comparison. Verse 4 says, the wicked are not so. They are like the chaff that the wind drives away. And so this is a reference to the thrashing of wheat. And so all that, when you would thresh the wheat, all that the chaff is the useless part that you would let the wind blow away. This reference is to say this, that the wicked do not last. They have received their reward in full on this earth for their worldly living. But the godly, righteous man, although they may have been mocked, although they may have faced hardship and persecution in this world for walking in righteousness' sake, their inheritance is eternal and will not be taken away from them. And so all that the wicked does not last into eternity, where all that the righteous does last into eternity. In verse 5, therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. This is a warning to say that come the day of judgment, their sin will be shown for what it is, and they will fall down, and all will be shown for its fruit. This is a terrifying thought, and this reminds us of Psalm 37, verse 12 to 13. Psalm 37, verse 12 to 13. The wicked plots against the righteous and gnashes his teeth at him. But we hear what verse 13 says in Psalm 37. But the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he sees his day is coming. The wicked might get away with their evil. The wicked might have a few years of prosperity here on the earth. But we are to be reminded of what Galatians 6 verse 7 says. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Verse 6 of Psalm chapter 1. But the way of the wicked will perish. Christian, I would want to warn us today. I would want to call us back to walking in righteousness today. I don't know if there is sin that you have entertained in your life. I don't know if there is a pet sin that you may justify to yourself as being all right. But I would call you today to kill sin before it would kill you, to delight in the law of the Lord, and to dig your roots deep into Him. And we will look at what that means tomorrow and why that is the right way of living. For there are only two ways of living. We either walk with the righteous God or we walk with the prince of this world right now. One leads to life, one leads to eternal separation. Oh, how I pray that we would walk with the righteous one. May God bless you. May the Lord draw us near to Himself.